I'm so nervous.
Don't be.
Oh, I'm nervous.
All right, I think we are live.
I'm so nervous.
Don't be.
I'm nervous. Well, that answers that.
All right, so we should be good now. Now I gotta find you. All right, boom.
I boom.
I think we good. So it's a little bit of a delay on YouTube,
Yeah,
but
it should. Yeah, it'll be a little delay. It's
okay.
all good.
So
You
what
know.
I did, I just muted it on YouTube so that we don't have the feedback, but we should be good now.
Perf. Okay.
You probably gotta pay attention to the comments over there though, just in case we get
Bless.
something we need to answer.
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. We're definitely live.
Oh yeah, we're super duper live. Super duper live.
Oh, I should mute mine too.
Probably before you end up
I
having
did. I did.
bam, bam.
Okay. That way I can keep up with the chat situation.
Okay. So you're like the hostess. So I'm gonna let you kick this thing off. I'm gonna let you do I'm gonna just answer questions, I think.
That's it?
We'll figure
Listen, because I I thought this was the Andre Gaskin show. You just
it
bringing me
is.
on.
You're right. You're right.
So,
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're
baby, this is on your YouTube channel.
right. So now y'all got to see what it really looks like.
Yeah. And
The
so you let them people know who you are, and then you can
the
introduce me.
before party, right? So first and foremost, welcome to my humble YouTube abode, right? Where we did some housekeeping. But today we decided to kind of ramp things back up on the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is probably about 10 or 11 years old. I literally, my last video was 10 years ago. And after having a discussion with Candace, she noticed, with her keen eye, she noticed that the same things that I was talking about then 10 years ago are the same things that I'm talking about now when it comes to athletes, high performers, leaders, executives, founders, um, continuing to increase in every aspect of their lives without not just making big money, right? Or not just, changing their culture or not just breaking generational curses, but becoming the person that is enabled to do all of those things, not just in business, but in relationships, in finances, as parents, as mothers, as fathers, as daughters, as sons, all the different things, all of the roles that we have, we sometimes operate based off our titles and our roles and not off of the human being that we are, right? So we decided to not only ramp up the YouTube channel again, but also go live, get people used to coming here and checking out the content, right? But also on May 15th, we're going to be publishing a book that um, from the business perspective is probably 5 years in the making. I would argue that it's 41 years in the making, right? Because I'm 41 years old, and God has had this magnificent way of allowing me the opportunity to travel through chaos so that I can synthesize that chaos and empower other people that I know will inevitably, if they aren't right now, will inevitably encounter chaos and how to navigate that while they're being the best version of themselves. So um, I shared the I shared the manuscript with Candace. She loved it. I don't know if she was just hyping my head up or whether she really loved it,
I was
but
just hyping you up.
we'll figure that out in a little bit. But over the course of these 7 days, not just as a means to get more attention to the YouTube channel. By the way, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please feel free anytime you pull up to leave a comment, share what you're thinking. I'm definitely paying attention, so would love to have that discourse with you at any given time. But we're also going to be launching um, the book. I'm calling it the book. It originally had a title. It does not have a title as of right now because that's just how my mind works. What I wanted to do was come on here, actually synthesize the chapters day by day by day by day. What was the thought process? What is occurring right now? How do I and even we view those different things? And then we're going to take those stories, we're going to take your questions, we're going to take challenges that maybe you share, right? Since I'm being vulnerable, right? I hope that you all feel the need to do the same, right? With your questions, with your feedback, whatever the case may be. And together, we're going to write and publish this book, and you get a sneak peek at it from the very beginning. So, welcome. Pull up a seat, prop up your feet. Hopefully, in the next few days, you'll realize you probably need a snack so you can have something to munch on, right? Have something to drink, whatever the case may be. And we're going to talk about all things increase.
Let's get into it then.
Let's get it.
All right. So you came to me with this book a little while ago, and you was like, "Hey, I got this book. It's finished. I wrote it. Need some eyes on it. Gonna try to figure out which direction to go with it." I get it, and I genuinely in my head was like, "Okay, this book probably gonna be 150 to 250 pages."
Oh, boy, were you surprised.
I was thoroughly surprised. It was not that. But when did you originally start writing this manuscript? First picked it up.
All right. So first wrote the manuscript. It's crazy. It's a story around everything, right? So decided January, no, I decided December of 2019 that I was gonna write a book in January, right? Or start writing a book in January of 2020. So January comes around, I start looking for coaches. I'm like, I've never written a book before. I kind of understand how to story tell. I've read a lot of books, but the actual process, I'm one of those people where I don't want to just do something. I want to learn how to do it, then do it. Right. So, what is the framework? What are the tools that are needed? Whatever the case may be, whether I'm changing a tire on a car for the first time or whether I'm writing a book, whatever it is, I want to know how have other successful people done that, right? So went through the due diligence because you never know what you're gonna get on the interwebs, right? So I started doing my due diligence when it comes to finding an author coach, right?
Mhm.
And so, like I said just a second ago, God has always put me, and I believe God puts us in opportunities to prove ourselves to ourselves, right?
Mhm.
We definitely don't have to prove ourselves to him because he already knows, already has an intimate relationship with us. However, sometimes we have to prove ourselves to ourselves, right? And so as I'm looking for this coach, I'm kind of, interviewing people, talking to people, and then I realized, Andre, for the last X amount of years, it's probably 10 years at that point. For the last 10 years, you have been building a company, helping people, coaches, consultants, service providers, grow their businesses, enhance their authority, enhance their reach, all of the different things, right? And some of those people have been author coaches. So why don't you just reach out to one of your clients in order to get an author coach, which I ended up doing. which I ended up doing. So I found my author coach. I pay for a VIP day because I'm like, I don't want to take a whole bunch of time. I just want to sit down. I want to learn the framework. I want to operate from that framework, and I want to write this manuscript. So I have the VIP day. January is when I find her, but I'm also planning on moving to Atlanta during this same time period. At the time, I'm always moving. Amen. Yeah, y'all gonna know why she
We
said
go,
it in a second. But anyway,
yeah.
I end up I'm transitioning into moving from Tampa to moving to Atlanta. My business partner is in Atlanta. I started to build relationships in Atlanta. A lot of my clients are in Atlanta at this point. And quite frankly, I didn't want to go back home to Jacksonville at the time, right? So I end up getting there in February. Funny story, by the way. I was interested in someone during this time, right? I was interested in this certain person during this time. And they never would really give me the time of day, right? They were in another city. So I called them right when I find the coach. I'm like, okay, this manuscript is gonna be a go. I'm gonna get the rundown, whatever the case may be. I called them up and I'm like, hey, just to let you know, in about 60 to 90 days, I'm going to be publishing a book, right? So I'm just letting you know that it's time to decide whether you're going to be with me or not. Because after a while, I ain't even going to be studying no more, right? So just let me know. But anyway,
What we doing?
yeah, let me know what we're doing. Because I've been at your neck for a minute and like it's finna be up. So what do you want to do? Anyway, January goes by, February goes by. March is when my VIP day is. So while we're sitting, we meet at this community space, this community business space, a co-working space in Atlanta. We meet, go through the whole framework, get all my outlines down, know what my topics are going to be. I had the title for the book at the time. I knew who I wanted to target, all the different things we always go through. And so there was a time, at first we were in one room and we were going through the whole framework. And then she was like, all right, well, let's go to this other room because we need a little bit of silence. And I'm going to have you record your stories for the book, right? So I got out my phone. She shows me how to record the stories. I start recording the stories. As I'm looking up, as I get done with like the second chapter of stories, I look up at the TV and it's talking about how the potential of what is going to happen because this new thing has occurred that is taking the world by storm, but it's like the beginning days called the coronavirus, right? If I'm not mistaken, the date was March 13th, right? So we recorded. I say thank you to her, whatever the case may be. She let me know what the next steps are. But then she jokingly says, well, we'll see if we're able to do those steps in short order because who knows? The world might be shut down by the time we get ready to do it. That evening, I go
Wouldn't
to
you know
my
it?
cousin's house. I go to my cousin's house. I'll never forget the Atlanta Hawks. I was in Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks were playing a basketball game. Vince Carter was in his last year playing basketball. He was playing for the Atlanta Hawks. And as we're watching the game on television, a report comes on in the stadium telling them that, hey, as of this moment, the federal government has deemed this coronavirus like a national incident, right? And we're going to stop the game right now. The reason I remember Vince Carter was playing is because it was his last season. He was like 40 something years old, and they put him on the court for him to play his last few minutes because he was retiring after the season. Everyone knew he was retiring after the season. What we didn't know is the season was going to end in March and not when it usually ends in May or June, right? And that's how the book was born. So I wrote it, did the stories, recorded everything, had the whole manuscript written out, did my editing and all that different stuff. And then life started happening, right? Shut down, everybody's home, we're wearing masks. I'm talking to my children every day. One day, my son, who was living in Jacksonville, I call him Pop, his nickname is Pop, and he's like, Dad. He was like, what are you doing? Are you still moving to Atlanta? He was young at this point. And I was like, yeah, like in, next month, I'm here for March. And then in April, I'm moving. I'm just here to find an apartment and all that different stuff. And he was like, oh, I said, well, why'd you ask, Pop? He's like, well, I kind of was thinking you were going to come home. And I was like, well, why would I come home? And he was like, because I don't want to do this without you. And so I packed up all my stuff and I moved to Jacksonville. I moved back,
What can you do?
but it was God. I don't believe in blessings in disguise because blessings are not disguised to God. He already knows how the blessings are going to align. They're disguised to us. Like we don't know they're happening, but he does, right? And so um I ended up moving back home and good thing I did because during that year and during that time, my father went through a knee surgery during that time. My mom had a really bad fall at work. She ended up coming off of her job. Of course, what we were going through and all of the COVID of it all, and and also my grandmother died. My grandmother died. My dad's mom passed. Well, actually, my mom's dad passed in 2020. And then about 2 weeks later, my dad's mom passed, right? So both of my grandparents passed in short order. Um, Following year, my grandfather passes, who like my grandparents were my everything growing up. So I kind of felt, it's weird to say, but I kind of felt like I lost my parents when I lost my
Hmm.
grandparents. But that is during that time is when it dawned on me, I got this book on paper so that I could have my own framework, my own blueprint as to navigate the times we're in right now. And so it dawned on me that this was not the time to write the book. This was not the time to work on the book. This is the time for the book to work on me so that I could later on instruct others on how to work on themselves, leveraging the book. So for the last 5 years, I've just been living it, right? As a parent, in my relationships, as a son, as a business owner, as a leader. And that's where we are today. That same vein is why we decided to do this live because it always looks good to see the end of somebody's story, right? But what does it look like in the ugly parts, right? What does it look like in the middle? And very rarely do you see people take this type of approach when it comes to living out loud, writing out loud, right? Creating out loud. And so that's why we're here.
I think a lot of authors miss that too. Just the idea of, you finished your book and then you get to live out all these principles that you write about. And a lot of times authors kind of flip that. It's like, oh, I need to live it all out, have all of this experience, and then once I've perfectly mastered all these things that I want to put in my book,
Yeah,
then I'll write it. So
yeah,
you having that unique perspective of being like, nah, let's get it on paper, finish it. And now you're put in this unique position where you get to live it out. So as you are, you have this manuscript recorded, written out, what's going on in life, career wise, personal, especially with your business? Who are you serving at the time? What are some of their struggles versus yours? And how do those things come into play with what you talk about in your book?
yeah. So primarily what I've always worked on, and this is like a season of transition for me, right? And I say a season of transition, although I personally believe everyone experiences transition in every season,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's not like a season for transition and then a season for, maintaining and all of that stuff. Like all of that, I believe, comes in its own ways, right? But every season you're transitioning out of something and into something, right? And so for the last 15 years, what it has looked like professionally is me being the co-founder, director of client success, the other half of a phenomenal company called Strategic Scale Institute, used to be Client Attraction University, where we help coaches, consultants, and service providers take their business from idea to income, right? We do that through online marketing, Facebook ads, helping business owners to either build or grow, maybe even scale their current infrastructure to be able to support more clients, to be able to support more team, and to be able to garner more income, right? That has been my entire role, right? Who I am as an individual, though, is not just focusing on a lot of people come to us because they want to make more money in their business. And so I tell our clients from the very beginning, hey, I'm not the one. If you want the one that's totally concerned about your business, holla at my business partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm not as concerned about your business as I'm concerned about the individual growing the business. Because if I can help you develop, if I can help you steward what you're about to walk into, because as you currently sit, you you are not an individual that's ready for $1 million business. You may want $1 million business, but are you ready for $1 million business? You may be the person that wants to lead a big team, but are you ready as a human, as the individual you are? Are you ready to lead and steward those types of people? Oftentimes, people come to us wanting what they want, but they're not prepared internally to actually steward that. And so that is where I come in with the mindset, with the development, with the frameworks, with the non-judgmental leader that's willing to hold space for you to share your deep, dark secrets so we can unpack them, so we can figure out what is going to go on this trip with us, what is not going to go on this trip with us, and repack our bags to be prepared for the journey that we're going on. And so that looks like executives, founders, athletes, right? As I'm in this transition, I have realized that my favorite people to work with aren't just business owners. They are humans that happen to serve different purposes. They could be executives, they could be founders, they could be D1 athletes or professional athletes. They could be someone struggling in their marriage, right? They could be someone that can't quite connect with their children. They could be someone that's making a lot of money, but they haven't identified what are the internal presets, right? What is the current operating system that they're operating under that's causing them to make all this money but lose it in short order, right? So I am the person that helps them to look under the hood, helps them to recalibrate their awareness so that they can consistently and predictably develop plans to achieve what they want to achieve at a higher level and more than anything, be more fulfilled while they're doing it. Because all you have to do is have a taste of the success that you want to understand that the success don't be it, right? I'm probably going to use improper grammar a little bit, so y'all just rock with me. Um, but it sometimes takes us to realize a goal in order to understand that even though we accomplished the goal, we still are who we are. And if we didn't work on improving ourselves, if we didn't work on how we see ourselves, if we don't work on our beliefs, actions, and habits, if we don't recalibrate our identity, if we do not do those things, we're going to be the exact same person in a higher level situation. And that higher level situation is going to be fleeting because we haven't done the proper internal work in order to maintain and sustain what it is we're growing.
So you talk a lot about mindset, the importance of it, doing that internal work, but people don't be want to hear all that. We don't want to talk about no mindset, like where the bread at.
Right.
So how have you, and you just have a unique way of repackaging that whole concept so that it is palatable for people. How do you do that?
Hmm. Wired to do it. Right. I want to give you a sexy answer, Candace, but I can't. Um, I'm wired like that, right? Um,
Where's that wiring come from? So even thinking back to you being a young Dre, who was pouring into your mind and ensuring that your mind was set for the success that you would ultimately have?
yeah, good question. So definitely my village, right? It was definitely
Hmm.
the village. I talked about my grandparents earlier. Don Gaskin, Victoria Gaskin, who my grandma, her nickname was Cookie. I feel like everybody got a cookie in their family, right?
For
But
sure.
my grandma, my mom's parents, my granddad Arthur, Donnie Davis. They were the integral part. It was just so much wisdom. My grandparents were already like they had my parents when they were older. So by the time I came around as the first grandchild, by the time I came around, they were around, I don't know, maybe like 50s, 60s. They had lived, right?
Grandparents don't be old no more.
They had lived a lot of life, right? And there was a lot of wisdom in just how they dealt with me overall. My grandma was my mom's mom, Donnie, was the candy lady, right? So my first experience of an entrepreneur was before I even knew what an entrepreneur was, right? I was just focused on making friends out in the neighborhood, and the way you made friends was to go outside with check sodas and Rice Krispie treats. By the way, let just quick little thing. In case everyone viewing doesn't know, Rice Krispie treats were made at the house before Rice Krispie ever started to mass produce them. Right? I don't know if y'all, but before they were in a blue wrapper, there was a recipe on the back of the box, right? You had to have marshmallows and sugar and the Rice Krispies. And then you made the Rice Krispie treats using the uh using the instructions on the box. Years later is when Rice Krispie actually started mass producing Rice Krispie treats like we see in the grocery store. Right. So my
It
grandma
sound
was
like a
cooking it
case
up.
study.
She wasn't cooking cocaine, but she was definitely
No
cooking it up.
judgment.
We were serving the whole neighborhood on these Rice Krispie treats, and you could only get them from people who made them, right? So that check sodas. I asked you the other day, what do y'all used to call frozen cups where you're from? We call them Lily Dillies, Flips, frozen cups, honey drippers. They got all types of names, but that was my grandma running that store was my first introduction into entrepreneurship, and I didn't even know it, right? My grandfather, all his wisdom, granddad, every Saturday, every weekend, he bought a boat. So when I was growing up, he would have a boat. I'll see you a picture one day, but he had a boat, and every Friday or every Saturday morning, he would get up, go on Lake Washington, which was not far from where we live, and he would go fishing, right? All day long, all day long. And so he'd come back in the evening, have all the fish in the cooler, and he would sell those fish to the neighborhood, right? Again, entrepreneurship. Also, vertical integration, right? He not only had the boat and went fishing, but after a while, he bought a tub, like an actual tub that you see in the house, put soil in it, and he started to raise his own bait, like the worms that you fish with. He
Hmm.
started, he started to raise his own bait, right? So again, I didn't know this until I was 30 years old, learning about vertical integration, listening to Nipsey Hussle, and I'm like, hold up,
Wait a minute.
my
I've
granddaddy
seen
did that,
this.
right? And then Don, my dad's dad, and Cookie, my dad's mom, my granddad was a pastor. I watched him found a church from scratch, from absolutely nothing but God's voice. He founded a church, right? To me, that's building a business, right? Anytime you got to manage and lead people, to me, that's a ministry. And so there was so much that they instilled in me when it comes to how I think. No, nothing was ever a major deal. They were so stoic. When as we even as we get older, the things that used to be important to us or the things that used to kind of knock us off our rocker a little bit, they don't anymore because it's like, in the grand scheme of things, that's really small, right? Well, imagine being a young child, 5, 6, you're with your grandparents all day, every day, and nothing seems to be a big deal to them, right? So it's just there was so much wisdom that they gave me. When I got in trouble at school, they were the ones that taught me about personal responsibility. When I had situations in my life um, that I would come across inevitably, because I'm a knucklehead by nature, they would be the ones to talk me through those things. And it wasn't from a place of trouble or punishment. It was just like depositing these seeds of wisdom. And I never watched them go through a situation that they didn't conquer. And I was taught that that's what I was. I was a conqueror. So there's nothing that you can go through as long as you make the decision to not let something consume you, you can conquer it. And so I've taken that through my entire life. Um, there's not, in my opinion, there's nothing that is too bad. I do have my crash out moments, just like everyone, but there's nothing that's too big. And when people come to me, I don't hear their problems. When a founder comes to me about the state of their company, or when someone comes to me about like their challenge going from this to this when it comes to their athletic performance or whatever the case may be, they're telling me the problem, but I'm listening to the conqueror, right? I'm seeing the person that has the potential to overcome it, right? And so that's just how I move, and that's where I got it from. Then my dad, my father is huge on English, right? My father loves the English language. Like I could not do so well in any other grade, but I mean in any other subject. But if I had a C in English, my pops was like, "Hey, what are you doing? How do you get an average grade in a language that you
You
speak
fluent
every
in.
day? You speak it every day, Andre. What's the problem?" Right? And so he was the one, like my dad would have these long lectures with me. And as he would be talking, he would like say a word and then he'd be like, you know what that means? And I'm like, no, bro, I don't know what that 7 syllable word you just said means. And then he would give me the definition. And then later, as I got older, he would say a word and he'd say, do you know what that means? And I'd be like, no. He's like, all right, when you get home, look it up. Right. So that is how I fell in love with words. I fell in love with communication. I fell in love with storytelling because my family on Sundays, when we got from church, we all sit in the living room and everybody would just trade stories all Sunday. That's how we that's how we spent our time together, right? Eating dinner, telling stories. And so that was my father taught me how to, he always told me, like, I don't want you to be the type of individual that is told how to think. I mean, that is told what to think. I want you to know how to think, right? And so critical thinking was always big to him. It is now with me. Um, and then my mom was just a workhorse. She worked two jobs when before she got married. She worked two jobs to for me to have a roof over my head, for me to have food on the table. She at the same time she was taking care of me. She was also taking care of her mom and dad at 21 years old, right? So my mom taught me not through words. My mom isn't a really she's more wordy now than she used to be growing up. um, but my mom was huge on work ethic. Whatever it is you want, you have to work for it because it's never going to be given to you. And sometimes that work is going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes that work is not going to be the most favorable thing to do. But those principles, whether it was from my mom or my dad or my grandparents or aunties or just anyone in my village, they always had a way to resonate with me. And so I believe that I've carried that and will continue to carry it through my life.
So you talked about all the conquerors in your family, including yourself. Is this where your original title came from?
Um, Yes. My original title came, so the original title of the book, because Candace she ain't gonna let me keep talking without me saying the title of the book. So the original title of the book was Decide and Conquer, right? If you know my story, the conquer part comes from when I first moved to Tampa from Jacksonville. I was just leaving a very toxic relationship. Didn't have the money to take care of my children. I was about 14 to $20,000 in arrears in child support. I didn't have a job. As a matter of fact, I donated plasma in Jacksonville in order to get to the money to buy a bus ticket to Tampa, right? When I moved to Tampa, although all of my family was right across the bridge in St. Pete, I didn't even tell them I was moving. I just came to Tampa. I lived on the street. I was homeless. I had this kind of thing. I've always been resourceful. So I had this thing where I would live near the airport because I felt like if I stayed near the airport, it would be so much going and coming that nobody would be able to tell from day to day that I was the same person, right? And so I would at nighttime, I would kind of it was this DoubleTree hotel that was like right off of Cypress Street in Tampa, across the street from Blake High School. If you're from Tampa, you're gonna know where I'm talking about. Not Blake, Jefferson. So anyway, I would at night when it got late, first of all of the airplane captains and like the stewardesses and all that, they would stay at this hotel because it was right up the street from the airport, right? So the shuttle would drop them off. I'm kind of blending in with everybody. I would be in the lobby during the day. At night, it was this bathroom that was like right off the lobby, but it was ducked off. And I noticed that nobody would go in there, right? So every night I would go in there with my little suitcase, my little, nighttime bag. I would go in there, and my thought process was if somebody jiggles on the handle, I can just bust out of there and be like, hey, I'm using the bathroom. Like, it's traveling, right? So I'm all prepared to like, hey, like, hold up. I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying? So I would duck in there. I would duck in there every night. And so one night, I've gotten connected to the VA by this time. They've done some tests on me. I've spoken to a psychologist, I've spoken to a psychiatrist, and they have diagnosed me with PTSD, depression, among other things. Also, they prescribed me a lot of pills. So now I'm taking this medicine. I'm thinking it's helping me, but as I'm moving through my days, I'm realizing it's really not helping me. Like I'm turning into a zombie and I really think I'm crazy now. So anyway, what?
Before you shoot too far though,
Yeah,
connected to the VA. So, military service.
yes,
Let's
yes.
talk about that.
What the military service as a whole?
Just quick rundown.
All right, so I did 5 years in the military.
Straight out of high school.
Army, yeah, 18. I graduated when I was 18. Uh, decided I was gonna go into the military. My mom didn't like it. She didn't like the idea. So my mom is really good at getting people on her side. So
Mhm.
she got like my whole family to, hey, like what are you doing? This is right after 9/11. Like 9/11 happens what, 2001?
Mm-hmm.
Almost
2001.
2002. I graduated in 2003. So we're 2 years removed.
Mm-hmm.
Bush is still in office. Um, and I decide I always wanted to go to the NBA, right? I worked on my game a lot. Actually, the doctor told my mom when I was younger I was going to be 6'9". So, girl, you should have saw me, Candace. I'm drinking milk, doing push-ups, doing squats, because
Because we going to the league, baby.
I need to be prepared for when I'm 6'9". I'm gonna be a whole problem. I can hoop now, but 6'9", I'm gonna be all right.
Where
Uh,
we cap out at? What you about?
6'1". We capped out at 6'1". If I could find that doctor in a dark alley right now, I give him the business. I give him the bit because you lied to me, sir. So anyway, I decide that I'm gonna go to I want to go to the NBA. One day I'm having a conversation with my dad, and my dad, it's random. I'm sitting in the back seat, and I was like, Dad, I said, I've always wanted to go to FAM, but I'm wondering, FAM is like a HBCU, so I'm wondering, should I go to FAM or should I go somewhere like Duke so I could have more, more visibility on TV? My dad literally pulls the car over, parks in a parking lot, turns around behind me, and he's like, Andre, let's talk about something real quick. He was like, there are X amount of teams in the NBA. I told y'all my dad is the critical thinker. There are X amount of teams in the NBA. Each team has X amount of roster spots, right? Uh, Out of those roster spots, X amount of people are good enough to actually play every day, right? Also, for those X amount of roster spots, there are X amount of draft spots each year, right? And there are X amount of colleges, D1, D2, D3, all around this great United States and beyond, right? So, in order for you to get into the NBA, you not only have to be tall enough, fit like physical traits, but you also have to have the talent, right? And I was good. I was talented. I don't know if I was top 1% talented. I'm just keeping it a bean, right? So my dad turns around and I'm like, okay. He was like, do you know what I'm saying? I was like, no. He said,
So, which school do I go to?
so after me saying all of this, what do you want to know? I said, well, I want to know if I should go to FAM like I always wanted to go to FAM, or should I go somewhere like Duke? He said, you didn't hear anything I said, did you? I said, no, I heard everything you said, but I don't know what you mean. He said, in other words, you're not going to make it to the NBA.
Dang, Dad.
Yeah, that's
Straight like that?
my OG. That's my OG.
Straight like that.
Later
Nah,
on I realized
I'm not
because it
that.
didn't stop me. I still worked.
Yeah.
still, but also one thing I started to think about was like, I don't necessarily even want to go to the league just to play basketball. I want to go to the league to make money. I
Mhm.
could make money in other places, right? So I decided instead of going to the NBA out of high school, I would just go to the military out of high school. My mom did not love that idea. And so she got everybody on board. They're trying to talk me out of it. I finally figured out that I needed to stop talking about the military to my mom now, right? So my mom didn't find out I was going to the military till I was on the bus on the way to basic training.
Dre,
I literally called my mother and said, "Hey, mom,"
I'm outside.
what you doing, baby? No, no, not outside. I'm on the way to Georgia.
On the bus.
Yeah, wait, why are you going to Georgia? That's where basic training is. When does basic training start? Tomorrow, July 17th. I'm on the way. I don't know if they're gonna let me use the phone, but I'll call you when I get there.
So you've been a problem.
I've been on this.
Okay.
I've been on this. I've been on this. When everybody else is zigging, I just feel like it's a good idea to zag. And so, military, I started off in Fort Benning, Georgia, ended up being stationed in Tampa for a little bit right before I got out. And then after that, I went to college. So I went to FAM where I always wanted to
Hmm.
go. I ended up going to FAM. After I got out of the military, I tried to work some odd jobs for a little bit. I ended up moving my girlfriend. I ended up convincing my girlfriend at the time to move to Tampa with me from North Carolina with her family and all. Um, that didn't go very well, but after that, I ended up going to college. Had my children in college. I'm sure we'll get to that in one of these chapters. And
For
then
sure.
after that is when I ended up in Tampa. So
Okay.
I'm
So
in Tampa.
between
Yeah.
military,
Yeah.
because you just kind of you have a habit of just skipping over key details. And I'm just trying to paint the picture for the people.
Let's get it.
So we go military, you are diagnosed with PTSD. How what's the timeline
Oh,
between
I wasn't diagnosed
no.
with PTSD in the military. So let's do a
How
time.
long after? Yeah.
Let's do a timeline. So 2003 to 2007-ish, I'm in the military,
Okay.
right? I get out of the military. I move in with my dad. I convinced my girlfriend at the time to move to Tampa, to Florida with me. She's living in the house with me and my parents, by the way. Craziness. Craziness. Um, she leaves. That's another story, but she ends up leaving. And then in 2008, I decide I'm gonna go to school. So by the time I apply to school, I'm not able to get in for the 2008 year. So I start January of 2009.
Okay.
So 2009 to 2012, I'm in college. Then the kids are born.
Colleges at FAM.
Yes, college is
Okay.
at him, so I'm in Tallahassee. Armand is born. I don't know about my daughter yet. But Armand
Okay.
Armand is born in January. His mom graduated in May, and then I'm about to go back for my senior year because I was in the 5 year program. So the goal was to graduate with my bachelor's and my master's after 5 years, and I
Hmm.
was fast tracking because I was actually a decent student. So 2012 comes, she goes back home. She gets on a little bit of a difficult time. Me being who I am, I say, well, hey, you get straight. I'm gonna come get Armand. So I go get my son from Fort Lauderdale. I come back to Tallahassee to start summer school because I've been going to summer school every summer so I can graduate early, right? So if I get this summer school session done, all I have to do is the August semester, and then I'm done with school. I bring Armand home. I bring Armand to Tallahassee, and I figure out in the first week, shout out to every mother that ever lived, right? I figure out in 1 week that this is not my ministry, right? It's not my ministry. I gotta do daycare. I gotta do all these different things, right? And I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I can't do this. So I go home. I leave Tallahassee. I come back to Jacksonville. That's 2012. Um, and then I end up in Tampa in 2015. So this is 2015 that we're talking about in the hotel.
Okay.
So I'm in this bathroom. So also when I got diagnosed with all of those mental health conditions, that was in 2015.
Hmm.
I got out in 2007. So what's that, 7, 8 years removed
Hmm.
is when I finally get diagnosed. But I'm not knowing that anything, I'm not knowing that this is a thing though. I'm not aware that this is a thing in my life yet until they start telling me.
Hmm.
And so I'm hopped up on drugs. I'm drunk one night. I'm drunk. I'm hopped up on these drugs. I've been still giving plasma when I was in Tampa. So I ended up stacking up enough money to buy myself a pistol, right? So I'm in this bathroom in the DoubleTree Hotel late one night. I'm crying. I'm beside myself. I'm a whole mess. Because how did we get here? By this time, I found out that I have a son and a daughter, right? I also found out that they're 13 days apart. One
Days?
days, Days. Yeah.
Days.
I also find out
Hmm.
they're 13 days apart. And yeah, it's a lot of self-loathing going on that night. And
Hmm.
so I'm in tears, I'm drugged up, I'm drunk. I have this I have this pistol up to my head. I'm beside myself. And the way I say it, I to this day, I audibly heard a voice tell me, Andre, either you're gonna decide to cower or you're gonna decide to conquer. Either you're gonna decide to cower or you're gonna decide to conquer. Needless to say, I put the gun down, right? Um, Probably that audible voice in that bathroom when I knew wasn't nobody else in there scared the suicide right out of me for that moment. Is that a laughing matter? Is that something that I can?
It's it's not very dark humor. I get it. Continue.
Somebody just somebody just clutched their pearl.
Somebody just clicked off. I'm telling you. Somebody like, no, y'all playing entirely too much.
He had me all the way up into there. But anyway, um, and so I start again, I love words. So I started to look up like what does decide mean? Like what does it mean? And so I uncovered that decide means to cut away from, right? And so like when you are in science class in middle school or high school and you dissect a worm or you
Hmm.
dissect an animal, right? You're cutting away from, right? And so that was kind of like that decide and conquer. That was my whole platform. That's what I spoke on for 10 years. That was my story for, all this time, decide and conquer, decide and conquer. And then getting into 2020 is when I started experimenting with the idea of increase, right?
Hmm.
So decide, conquer, and increase are like my frameworks. They're how I work people through what they have going on in their life. It's also how I approach business, all of that. Decide, conquer, and increase. And so the original title of the book was Decide and Conquer. And the main story of the book was my suicide story in the bathroom and that audible voice telling me that either I had to make a decision, either I was going to cower or I was going to conquer. And I chose to conquer. Not only I chose to conquer, I empower others to adopt conquering as a mechanism to defeat any adversity that they have going.
And for context, when you sent me this book, I don't know what my expectations were on what it was going to be about, if it was more of a memoir or more of like a professional personal development type read, but I pull it up on my computer. I open this doc, book title, Decide and Conquer, Introduction, The Gun and the Gift. Like right out the gate, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the hotel bathroom, pressed the cold metal against my temple. They say there are two important days of your life, the day you're born and the day you figure out why. Never expected to find my why with a gun to my head. I'm like, wait a minute. What? Wait, what? I remember first getting your manuscript, and I read this first paragraph and I was like, wait, hold on. I think I must have read it like 7 times. And I closed the doc and I was like, I see I'm going to need to be in a much different headspace for this read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Right out the gate swinging.
So,
Don't know why I was surprised because this is also how you teach. This is also how you coach.
mhm,
You
mhm,
come out swinging.
yeah, I the only other person that has laid eyes on that manuscript is someone very near and dear to my heart, right? And so I gave it to her. I think I was talking about the fact that you remember the story I told before about the person I gave the ultimatum?
Hmm.
Okay, that's my girlfriend now.
Hmm.
And so when we were first dating, when we first started dating, I think she asked me something like, "What happened to the book? Like, whatever happened to the book?" And I was like, "Well, I got the manuscript, but I haven't published it, blah, blah, blah." And she was like, "Oh, I want to read it." Knowing her, she was probably like, "I really want to read the book that had you so silly that you thought you was just gonna win me over."
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I want to stay. I want to read that.
Yeah, I got to read this because what was you on? Anyway, she reads it. She calls me and she like, "You can write for real." I'm like, "Oh, is it? Oh, it's okay. It's okay." She like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can write for real." And ever since then, it's like, when are you gonna publish this book? So, um, I like to think it's a good work in progress.
That it is. So, one other thing that you mentioned a few times, um, is just the concept of frameworks.
Mhm.
And this book being kind of the embodiment of a series of frameworks that you've used to guide your life and such. Um, where does this come from? Because you, as unhinged as you are,
Mhm.
um, reform crash out and all, you love a good framework.
I do love a good framework.
You love a good framework.
I do. Um, Frameworks come from a few different places. So my grandfather always taught me, like, if you want to have someone remember something,
Hmm.
you have to apply it to something that they're already familiar with,
Hmm.
right? That was his framework for how he was going to teach me parables, right? Told you my grandfather was a pastor. Jesus taught in parables. So that was what he set me up, right? To be excited about learning parables, right? And so That's one way. The other thing is as I got older and I started to understand that I had a love for people who were public speakers. So I could sit and listen to sermons all day long, right? I also enjoyed like public speakers like Les Brown and Tony Robbins. I still love comedy, right? So
Mhm.
stand-up comedians, anybody that can stand or sit or talk for 2 hours and command someone's attention for that long. Um, I was awestruck. I've always been in awe of people that can just command attention for extended periods of time. And so I learned that much like Jesus and the parables, right? So many people adopted that same idea, right? That same idea of being able to um, operate from a specific and common area in order to teach something or in order to deliver a joke, right? Jokes come with their own frameworks. Speeches, there's a framework for how you speak, right? There's a framework for how you write a book. There's a framework for how you start a video on the internet, right? And if you can deduce the framework, right? If you can extract the framework from any different situation or scenario, you actually increase your chances of learning how to master that thing if you devote time to it. And so from that place is where I started to adopt frameworks. Before I was teaching them, I was living them.
Mhm.
Not because I necessarily wanted to be this great speaker or whatever. I just wanted to teach my kids something. I didn't want my kids to grow up and be like, oh my God, the whole time dad being an idiot. You know what I'm saying? So I started to really incorporate frameworks into my life around that time. And then from there, is when I really started fine tuning it, realizing, oh, like this is a way that everybody learns. Like it's easier to teach anybody anything if you have a sequence, if you have steps, if you have order, if you have frameworks. And then when you take all of those same words, sequence, order, frameworks, whatever the case may be, you can find every example of everything that I mentioned, you can find it in the word, right? And so to me, the Bible is the longest running book of frameworks and principles and all of the other things, examples that have stood and continue to withstand the test of time. And so to me, if it is if it is in the word, like if it is in the word, it's principle based.
Mhm.
And frameworks are often principle based. And so I just that adopted that into my speaking, my teaching, my development, in order to kind of fast track how people develop and grow.
So is your book, does it focus or emphasize a single framework, or is it a collection of frameworks that are working together in a system?
So it's kind of a hodgepodge of everything that I just ended up putting on paper.
Mhm.
Right. So as of right now, all of the three fundamental frameworks are in the book. So the decide framework, which is the framework for making decisions,
Mhm.
making what I call decisive decisions,
Mhm.
that is in the book. Um, Conquer, which is the framework for overcoming your adversity, for rising above your circumstances, for overcoming your consequences, for just establishing and showing up day to day more powerful, um, more clear, right, on what it is, who you are, whose you are, and what it is you're called to do, right? So when we're talking about establishing identity, that is the conquer framework. And
Mhm.
then the increase framework is just that. How do we take, once we made a decision, once we've taken dominion over the things that we are in charge of, right? Or control over, once we handled and managed the adversity, all of those different things, how do you continue to increase that over the course of time? So the three main frameworks are definitely in there.
Okay. I think we're at a good spot.
I think we're at a good spot too. I think we're at a good spot too. So what is it that you had me touch on that I know I'm gonna have to go deeper into? Definitely military service.
Yes.
I got a feeling you're gonna want to hear about these children 13 days apart.
All of your family dynamic, including the kids that are 13 days apart. Um, More on your grandparents,
Yeah.
more on your parents.
Mhm.
How growing up within that village contributes to the framework, how you saw them live it out. I wanna get into some depth on that. Um, let's see. Hold on. Let me go back to your manuscript because I got a ton of notes in there too. Um, mm, 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 mm. Definitely want to revisit your medical diagnosis,
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, PTSD. Um, I really love I don't even want to give you an opportunity to think on that one. I want that one just
Off the
yeah,
cuff. All right.
I do. I do. I do. I do. Um Since one of your frameworks, since the Conquer framework talks about establishing identity and then overcoming adversity, showing up powerfully, you have a analogy in there about um, fingerprints.
Fingerprints, yes.
Yeah.
Love,
Um,
love me a good
so
one.
we'll definitely dig into that and identity and how yours was developed at different phases. So through childhood, through military service, through a season of homelessness, through a season of entrepreneurship. How all of these different experiences contribute to your identity and now how you turn help other high performing individuals establish their own through the lens of these frameworks.
That's it. That's it. I'm down. I'm down. I'm down. For the people, just in case they didn't hear it the first time, all right? Can you read? This is how we're gonna wrap it up. If
Okay.
you could just narrate for me, because who knows? You might be reading the audio version. Um, give me like that first six lines again. Was it like that first six?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the people
Yeah.
know what they will possibly have, and not will possibly, what they will have an opportunity to purchase at a later date.
Yes. Title of the book to be determined since you changed it. But let's jump right in. I need like some ambient music. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the hotel bathroom as I pressed the cold metal against my temple. They say there are two important days in your life: the day you're born and the day you figure out why. I never expected to find my why with a gun to my head. I'd love to tell you this was a dramatic climax of some action movie, but this was my real life, sitting on cold towel, wondering if anyone would miss me when I was gone. Depression had been my constant companion for years. Anxiety gripped my chest like a vice. Every relationship I touched seemed to crumble. Personal, professional, didn't matter. I'd even cut myself off from my family, convinced I was better off alone.
Um, I think this is important for me to share as we wrap up this first day. First of all, Candice, thank you so much for um, seeing this vision, but also being willing to just go with it because you realize that I'm just going with it. Um, for those of you listening today, those of you that will listen over the course of the next 7 days, 6 days, for those of you that will purchase the book and read the book and work through the book. For those of you that end up in some room with me at some point, right? Um, Thank you for your time, but understand that this isn't a money move for me, right? This isn't for clout, right? I haven't posted anything about this on social media or anything like that. The only people that have had access and will have access to these lives are my group of conquerors. It's about 1,160 of them on an email list. For each and every one of you, and for those of you that will see this at a different at another point, um, I pray that it comes across that I'm simply just being obedient. I didn't publish the book 5 years ago because it wasn't time for me to publish the book 5 years ago. I also 5 years ago wouldn't have been willing to have discussions, talk about my life. Because there's some parts of it that I used to be ashamed of. But I also know that there's parts of your life that you're ashamed of as well. I also know that just as I had to put a book down in 2020 because of COVID, not really understanding why at the moment, but looking back on it now and knowing that 2020 wasn't the time because God knew that in 2025, people would still be dealing with 2020 residue. They would still be dealing with losses that they have to navigate in 2025 from 2020. They would still be dealing with grief that they experienced in 2020 that they still have to get up out of the bed and be the best version of themselves in 2025. They knew that like God knew that there would be responsibilities, adversity, circumstances, situations that we would have to be equipped to be able to handle. And the best time for them to have a framework to do so would be in 2025 after you're aware of what it is you're going through. After you get sick of it to the point where you're ready to do something about it. And so I thank you for your time, but I encourage you every day, just pull up a chair. Just pull up a chair. I don't know if you're watching it on TV, watching it on your computer, watching it on your phone, whatever the case may be. I'm not just talking about me. If I was only talking about me, I wouldn't even want to do this. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the person that still tosses and turns on a regular basis, trying to figure a way out. I'm I'm talking to the person that always pours into everyone else, but has no one to pour into them. I'm talking to the person that's still trying to figure it out. I have a better version of myself that I want to be. I even have a better version of myself that I know what it looks like because I pretend to be it sometimes. But if you want to do it more consistently, pull up, type in the comments, share, ask your questions. Let's start some dialogue because, again, this is not about me at all. I would be totally fine just riding off into the sunset, operating my multi-million dollar company, helping my millionaire clients, helping my 6 and 7 figure athletes. I'd be totally content. I've done it for 15 years. But since I'm being called to something different, I can't help but address the people that I know I'm called to. And so if the message relates to you, if the emails relate to you, if anything that we've said or talked about or touched on resonates with you, tell somebody about it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get on the email list. You're fine. Just shoot me a message in the comments. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook and send me a DM that way. But let's continue to get plugged in because like this movement, this thing has been a thing. You're just finding out about it, but it's been a thing. It's 15 years in the making, but it's time for it to be at a different level. And for some reason, God wants me to lead that. And so I'm just being obedient. And so thank you all for your obedience. Candace, I thank you for your obedience. And we'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Central Time. If you're already on the email list, you will get notifications when we're an hour out, when we start. Um, this is going to be fun, and I appreciate you all for uh, taking the time to just pull up a chair and learn more about uh, this book and the plans for it to impact people.
Thank you, Dre,
Yeah,
for trusting me with your book, with your manuscript, for your obedience, your transparency. That's a good one. That's a good day one.
it's a good one. I agree. Decide, conquer, and increase. Decide and conquer. Hmm.
Huh?
I'm saying it out loud. I'm just wondering. I don't know. By the time y'all pull up tomorrow, we might have the title for a book.
You might have the title back on.
All right. Have a good evening.